Well, it's just that it's coming from Trump. This is truly a disgraced country. We are not like this before. When a country that offers help to protect other people in crisis.
Hello and what's up, guys? In this video, something shocking just happened on live TV that has left many Nigerians speechless. A respected Yoruba political leader, one who has always spoken carefully, suddenly lost his cool and went off script. He boldly agreed with Donald Trump's recent comment about Nigeria, calling the country, in his own words, a disgrace ruled by looters and shameless politicians. But before you think this was just a random outburst, wait till you hear the rest of what he said. It all happened during an interview on Trust TV's Daily Politics, a serious political program. The host had just asked him about the deepening crisis in the PDP, the growing insecurity, and Trump's controversial statement about Nigeria being a disgraced country. Instead of defending the country like most politicians would, this Yoruba leader shocked everyone. He said Trump may be rude, but he is right. Nigeria is truly a disgraced country. He went further, saying that a nation that once helped other African countries now has its own army running from bandits wearing slippers. His words, "We were once rescuers, now we are the ones crying for help." Can you imagine that? He didn't stop there. According to him, Amnesty International's report shows over 10,000 Nigerians have lost their lives in just 2 years, most of them from Benue and Plateau. He said communities can no longer even trust soldiers to protect them, accusing the government of colossal failure and even complicit. Then he dropped another bombshell, saying terrorists have now gained the capacity to create an ISIS-style state across parts of Katsina, Kebbi, Kaduna and Zamfara. And in his chilling words, the killings has not even started. When they push down from those areas, that's when we will see what real disaster means. Guys, just hearing that made the whole studio go silent. Then came his harshest moment. He described Nigeria's economy as a tragic collapse with no comparison in history. He said that in 1966, Nigeria's GDP was double Malaysia's, but today, Malaysia and Indonesia has left us behind. He blamed the ruling class, saying the APC has turned into a club of looters. He claimed the removal of fuel subsidy was a sheer wickedness because the money meant to help the poor is now being shared among politicians and governors who go and loot their various states. And then he asked a question that hits home. How can a party that wiped off 50% of nation's wealth in 10 years win any free and fair election? The presenter tried to calm him down, but it wasn't done. He also admitted that the opposition PDP is bleeding from within, accusing the ruling party of sponsoring instability inside opposition groups. He called out governors who defect to APC, saying they are simply running from accountability and afraid to face their own people. And when asked if President Tinubu could be defeated in 2027, he didn't hesitate. Who on earth is not defeatable? He said, adding that if the PDP truly had the people's support, they wouldn't be busy purchasing governors from other parties. Toward the end, he warned that democracy itself is now under threat because opposition parties are being quietly destroyed and the country is slowly turning into a one-party state. He said, we cannot be a democracy without parties. Anytime one party dominates everything, what you have is no longer democracy, it is a cult. And his final warning was chilling. We are getting close to a point where extremists could form their own government inside Nigeria if nothing is done. Guys, it was one of the most brutal, honest and emotional interviews we have seen in a long time. Guys, I will let you watch this video for yourself so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Also, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. Take a look, guys, and remember to share your thoughts after watching.
Right, a lot to get to, but let's talk about one particular issue that has got a lot of Nigerians talking over the last week or so, which is the Christian genocide claim, the position of the United States of America, the positions of the Nigerian government, China's involvement, ECOWAS involvement, African Union getting involved, religious leaders, religious groups. Everybody has a thing or two to say about this one. What do you make of what is unraveling right now in Nigeria?
Now, let's get out the politics and face the issue. The issue is, in the past 2 years, according to Amnesty International's report, over 10,217 people have died in terrorist-related attacks in Nigeria. the Federal Office of Statistics, in their own report, revealed that the numbers of people that died in the first 6 months of 2025 outstripped the number that died in 2024. So there is no question about escalating violence and death without the federal government of Nigeria showing any capacity to protect the people, whether they are Muslims, animists, or whatever their religious persuasion are. It is the responsibility of the federal government to offer protection. And we have seen colossal failure in this regard, which sometimes border on complicity. It might interest you to know that 80% of these figures by Amnesty International of the casualty were from Benue and Plateau states, 2 states in the north central region. Then you have some huge numbers coming from places like Kebbi, Katsina, and so on and so forth. So somebody needs to stop the killing right now. In the days of yore, when Nigeria was Nigeria, Nigeria will go to the UN to obtain some mandate, the UN Security Council, and then make consultation at the AU level, and then put in place something like an ECOMOG, which was purely an African initiative. We intervened in Liberia to stop the killing. We intervened, in Sierra Leone to stop the killing. So Nigeria was a reliable partner to maintain stability and deal with this kind of issue. But we are the one now that is a troubled child now. And we have not seen any initiative by AU, okay, and any other continental body.
You think Nigeria deserved a peacekeeping mission, so to say?
More than a peacekeeping mission. Look, I've been saying this for the past 5 years. I've been in this your studio many times to talk about national security issues. I proposed that we needed a defense cooperative agreement with friendly nations that we trust, because we really need help in this regard. When Buhari was here, I made that proposal. I've spoken about this 3 times in the past 1 year, okay, in major press statements, apart from other internal security initiatives. Because we're going to a point where people can no longer trust our own security forces to protect them. Most communities talk about their suspicion of complicity. So at that point, even if your men arrive, the communities don't trust them. So they're not going to be in a position to do the job. Before we build trust, you need some help, all right, to stabilize the situation. So why have they not sought for help? Why have they not embraced help? And that's why people accuse them of complicity, all right? Because if you are not in control, obviously you are not in control. The data are horrendous. And this is not the time to incite one section of the country against the other, or to turn it into a religious affair between Christians and Muslims. They are all Nigerians that are dying on all the sides of the divide. And I think this is where we need to concentrate our attention. President Trump has been moved by his own local political base in America to intervene. Now, what we need to do as a country is to negotiate a framework in which this intervention does not undermine Nigerian sovereignty. And you can't take that question of sovereignty too far now, because your sovereignty has been undermined anyway by all the hoodlums that are running around in Katsina, running around in most of northwest states, the rural area. Bandits collect taxes. So they have already started exercising sovereignty over your territory. So you can't accuse any other person that is trying to help you of trying to violate your
But do you think Trump or the American administration under him are coming to the table as respectful partners? He called Nigeria a disgraced country.
Well, it's just that it's coming from Trump. This is truly a disgraced country. We are not like this before. When a country that offers help to protect other people in crisis now have his army chased by hoodlums who really rarely have boots on their feet? Is not that a disgrace?
You think it's peculiar?
Oh no, this is truly a disgraced country right now. Not because at independence we didn't have honor. We were honorable people. Nigeria started helping other African countries right from independence when we were admitted to the United Nations. We went to stabilize Congo. We sent the peacekeeping force, and we did well in Congo. Okay, at independence, between 1955, the period of limited self-government, when people like Sasadauna was already taking power in northern region, Awolowo, when our first republic leaders took the driver's seat of our polity, our economy grew exponentially. By 1966, when the military launched their coup, the GDP of Nigeria was 6.3 billion US dollars. Malaysia's own was 3.2. That means that Nigeria's GDP was twice the size of Malaysia. In 1966, you can check the record. All right? In 1966, Indonesia's GDP was 5.8 billion. Nigeria's GDP was bigger than. Right now, Indonesia is 1.3 trillion US dollars. In the past 10 years, when the APC took the reign of affair, Nigeria's GDP has been shifted from $574 billion to 259. That thing you call the Great Depression in America in 1929 shaped the GDP of America only by 10%.
Aren't you discounting 2 recessions and a global pandemic?
Yeah, the global pandemic worldwide, the contraction was less than 6%. Right. So if you had 50...
I mean, the entire global economy is not back to where it was
absolutely
pre-pandemic.
Yeah. It was less than 6%. It didn't even get to the level of depression. Right. So when you talk about shaving the GDP by about 50%, what you have is more than a depression. In fact, it has no example. It has no comparison in economic history. It is tragic. It is disgraceful. It is horrific. There is just no word to qualify it. So and this is not what we have. So your problem is that it's Trump that is saying it. Why I'm saying it, I've said it. It's disgraceful. It's tragic. This is not where we should be. This is not where we have always been. We can do better, and we have always done better as a country.
Right. The federal government now says that they're in talks exploring diplomatic options to lower the temperature, come to some sort of understanding about how America could be a part of the solution, working with the Nigerian government to address these challenges. Do you believe that this is achievable under the Tinubu administration?
They are very inept in every department, including foreign affairs. For 2 years of the Tinubu administration, Nigerians don't have an ambassador. So how do you conduct diplomacy without ambassador to charge their affairs? Hearings were going on in the Senate by national commission, bilateral commissions, where countries who have agreements that they have signed before for cooperation, where they meet to review things on security trade, they have ceased to meet for over 12 years in this country. They don't function anymore. So all the legitimate channels to conduct diplomacy have been paralyzed under the APC administration. So they don't even have the institutional structure in place to conduct diplomacy. Diplomacy is not just conducted by somebody making a telephone call to the president. There are channels, there are reviews, there are desks, before they come to a level whereby they make a policy statement. They are not ready for diplomatic engagement.
So, in your assessment, are things about to get better or worse in the conversation around Christian genocide in Nigeria?
Well, we reduce the severity of where we are when we say Christian genocide. It's more serious than Christian, genocide. When maybe some
more serious than genocide?
Yeah, when you have states. Okay, one of the statements I made, I said that the extremists and terrorists have acquired the capacity to create a state like ISIS in 3 or 4 northern states. That is part of Katsina, okay? part of Kebbi, the northern part of Kebbi, okay, part of Kaduna, all right, and Zamfara. They have the capacity to declare this territory a state like that of ISIS. Now, which country in the world that has global ambition will wait for that to happen? This is not a joke. I mean, this is reality.
The defense headquarters would disagree outrightly with your categorization.
They have disagreed with many. They always disagree with many things. But you see, we are not here to kid ourselves. Now, I'm from the North Central Zone. That's where I do my politics. 80% of these numbers that were talked about, of 10,000 plus people killed, are from the North Central, Plateau and Benue specifically. When you have a ISIS type of state created in this area that I have said to you, they will start pushing down here. Then is when you will see the real killing. The real killing is not now. So who wants to wait for that to happen? Who wants to wait for that to happen?
You don't believe that there is any credibility to the government's narrative about certain successes that have been recorded, albeit...
The data doesn't show it. The Federal Office of Statistics says the people who have been killed, that's the reported killings, in the first 6 months of this year, doubled the number at the same period last year. That it outstripped even the period of 20 years.
Can these two different polarizing situations not exist in the same statement? That while the government might be recording successes against terrorists, bandits, and all the other criminal elements, the death toll has also significantly increased.
So the people are committing suicide. Is that the?
Not necessarily.
So what is the answer to that?
So you don't believe?
Somebody must be lying somewhere.
All right.
Definitely not Amnesty International. Definitely not Federal Office of Statistics, which has an institutional responsibility to keep data and record.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's segue into other developing issues. You've been a part of a summit earlier in the day that is talking about electoral reform, the state of affairs, and what's to come in 2027. We just witnessed the electoral process in Anambra State, where Governor Charles Soludo resoundingly got re-elected. First of all, your 2 cents on how far we've come and what the current situation says about the journey ahead of us. Because I reckon that's what most of the stakeholders are talking about. We saw some disturbing developments in Anambra State, which I might add is not necessarily new, whether it's vote buying or some of the irregularities or the little challenges with uploading results and things like that. What concerns you the most about our electoral process right now, against the backdrop of what's to come in 2027?
What concerns me most are one, the almost coordinated attempt to even make competition impossible. You know, apart from APC, almost all other parties have been decapitated. So it's only when you have parties to compete in the election that you can even be talking about whether that competition will be free and fair. When there is no competition at all, you can't be talking about free.
You think opposition is dead?
Well, there is a coordinated attempt to decapitate opposition through sponsoring intrigues, like we saw in Labour Party, like we are seeing in PDP, like we have seen in most viable opposition parties. It's only APC that is the only party now that seems not to have any problem. Where
there are other political parties, to be fair.
Like which one?
I mean, there's ADP, there's AAC, there's all these other fringe political parties that are relatively.
No,
I mean, as a matter of fact,
that's not my word. You categorize them as fringe political parties. No, let's not kid ourselves. There's a deliberate attempt to almost annihilate and wipe out. And that's the greatest danger I see. You know, we cannot be a democracy without parties. There has never been a time in this country when we didn't have multi-party democracy. While most African states were one-party states during independence, Nigeria had a multi-party system. You had vigorous action group, strong NCNC, okay, and the Northern Nigerian People's Congress. You know, as towering as Sir Ahmadu Bello was charismatic and all that. In the North, you still had challenges from Middle Belt Congress, Borno People's Congress. They were holding their own forth, even in northern Nigeria. And ditto for smaller parties, in the Southwest and all that. We have always been a multi-party state. Anytime we had our democratic experience, there had never been a time when it's only one party that is going to call the shot, especially when the economy is not performing, especially even when the leadership of that major party is not charismatic. There is nothing inspiring about the leadership of APC. So it is instigated destabilization that we're seeing amongst the
What do you say to APC people who say...
So, you see, this is the most important thing before you start talking about whether the ballot is going to be free and fair. Let's even talk about are we preparing the ground for competition?
Right now, as things stand, APC has not broken the PDP's record in terms of a supermajority in the country. Right now, the PDP has a good market share of electoral offices in this country, and some would argue that we have the most diverse makeup of political parties in government today, not just plain opposition. You have Labour Party, you have the NNPP, you have SDP, you have the PDP, and now the emerging force in the ADC. But the question is, how exactly can you connect the dots between the APC and all the crisis that is happening in the PDP or the Labour Party and all these other political
parties? Most of the people creating the problem in the PDP were the ones who campaigned for the sitting president from the PDP. All right. So, and it's not very difficult to know where the crisis is coming from. Although I do know too that you still also have some internal problems in some of the opposition parties, like lack of internal democracy. Just as we're seeing today with the judgment from the court in favor of Alhaji Sule Lamido. How can somebody who founded a party like Alhaji Sule Lamido, two-time governor, former foreign affairs minister, with a very long history of struggle for democracy, he wants to compete to be chairman of his party, and some governors are hiding the funds. Does that make sense? So you also have those small problems that are internal. But anyhow, I believe that we'll be able to surmount the problem, despite that they are very difficult now. But I still believe that the PDP has got a robust internal mechanism to address these problems. And we will continue to work very hard to ensure that there is reconciliation, that at the end of the day, the party at some point in time can have a unity convention, right, not the convention of one faction or the other.
In less than 10 days, 3 different court judgments, one of them being a court order, the latest one, which is earlier today. Federal High Court in Abuja stopping the convention, then the High Court in Oyo State giving a green light. Then this week, who's to say, 3 days before the convention, there could be another court order or judgment of some sort that could say something else. Is there a chance that people like you in the PDP are so hopelessly optimistic that you can't see the danger or the writing on the wall, that some people consider the PDP a Titanic at this moment, whose fate is almost sealed because it's sinking?
Well, yeah, it's frightening. But you see, we've come from a very long background of democratic struggle, and we don't give up easily like that. All right? When Abacha was in power, we had 5 parties that adopted him. Okay? And what was left, it was just for him to get into office. But you see how people like MD Yusuf, who was in GDM and was still saying, let Abacha come to the convention, I'm going to run. But at the end of the day, as God will have it, there was even no need for that. I believe, and this is a belief, and please, I'm entitled as a man of faith to my belief, that at the end of the day, we will still see light at this dingy tunnel.
You don't believe the party is going to sink?
Well, we'll do our best to make sure that it does not sink. You understand? We created the PDP. I was one of the founders of the PDP. Alhaji Sule was one of the founders of the PDP. Most of the people causing problem today were not in the PDP when they only benefited from our efforts and our sweat, you know, and they are using the resources therefrom to destabilize a legacy that was well constructed.
Who are those troublemakers in your view? Because from the two sides, I mean, we're going to talk about the factionalization in just a moment, but from the two sides, everybody is pointing accusing fingers at the other side. They are the troublemakers, and the other ones are saying, you are the troublemakers.
No, I don't want to mention names because it will be difficult if I'm calling people names now. It will be difficult to reconcile them.
Right.
So it's better to leave the names out.
Right.
You know.
But are they obvious?
Well, you follow it. You know, you follow the story every day.
It looks like the PDP is made up of troublemakers. Because for some reason, a lot of people say the former governor of Jigawa State,
there is nothing wrong in being. Look,
it's not on brand for him. He's never been a troublemaker.
There is nothing wrong.
But he looks like a troublemaker at the moment.
A party where people stand up for their right, that's the proper political party. A party where everything is quiet is not a party. That's a cult. Where people take orders. That's not a political party. Why you have a lot of contestation in the PDP is that it's the party that is a democratic party. Even with all the problems of all these younger men that came to become governors, to be what have you, I mean, they still feel that there is a need to go to NEC, there is a need to go to court, it's part of the democratic process. And that's why it's a party.
I mean, okay.
So the absence of conflict is not democracy. But building the mechanism to resolve conflict and subject minority opinion to majority opinion is what democracy is all about.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when we started the conversation about what's happening with the PDP, you alluded to how there's only one party who is enjoying peace, and that's the APC, and the others have been unsettled because...
No, it's not about enjoying peace. Right. That's not what I'm saying. Right. I'm saying that the APC is destabilizing the other parties.
But the APC is stable.
Sponsored. They are not stable. It's just that they have captured a lot of converts. Those ones that don't have any rights.
And they don't have to deal with what you are dealing with.
Yes, they don't have any rights. You understand? They're just quiet there.
How would you know, Dr. Hashim? How would you know? You're on the side of the PDP. You wouldn't know what's happening with the APC.
Well, I know. You know what is going on in the APC.
Well, I know that they look stable on face value.
On face value, then. Up till the 6 months to 2003 election, the APC was governed by a caretaker committee. I hope you remember that. Malabuni was there after Adams Oshomole was sacked. And it was all about factions of some governors who didn't want Adams Oshomole. In fact, all the intrigues was against this man now that is the president. They didn't want him. And that's why they changed, but he still became president. So it doesn't matter who he wants. Who God wants to be president will be president. All right?
Do you believe President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is defeatable?
Who on heart is not defeatable in an electoral contest?
I mean, mathematically it's possible. But do you think, under the current situation, with everything that's happening with the PDP right now, and I believe you think the PDP has the best chances of unseating the president, do you think that's possible?
Look, if they are very comfortable and they have it wrapped up, why are they purchasing governors from PDP and from every party? They should have a sufficient number of governors now to win the election.
Is that what's happening? You think they're buying the governors?
Oh, why? I think so. Anyone who is afraid, who has taken so much money from his state, and then cannot depend on the goodwill of his people, will go to APC. Those who are sure of themselves, they will not bolt out.
The governors are talking about alignment and how the APC makes sense for their people.
That's
just political.
How does a party that wiped off 50% of the GDP in 10 years make sense?
I mean, how does a party? They did the rebasing. I know you understand the economics, but after the rebasing,
whatever they did,
the numbers looked better than what you're trying to describe right now.
No, it's still less than 300 billion. It was 574 billion in 2014. There are numbers now still less than what it was in 2014. Tragic record. And forget about the GDP, the poverty in town. They reduce subsidy on petroleum. That's the only thing that Nigerian people benefited as Nigerians. Cheaper petrol than their neighbors. Any other thing that you can think of, whether it's electricity, Nigerians generate their own electricity. You do your own water through borehole, or you buy from Yoruba. Government offers no social service or any welfare service. The only thing that Nigerians benefited from government was having a relatively cheaper price of petrol, with which they run their generators, to do their akamu, They run their generators to do their barbing saloon. They run their generators to sew as tailors and all that.
Are you making a case for the return of subsidies?
No, it's not a question about the return of subsidy. It's about what the money that was withdrawn had been used for. It's sheer wickedness to punish the poor and then accumulate the money, share it to people who go and loot in their various states. It's wickedness. Why didn't you just leave it with the poor people?
Because it's not sustainable. Because
is this one that is sustainable?
All the major presidential candidates in 2023 have also campaigned on subsidy removal.
Those are the ones who don't know what they're doing. I have been against subsidy removal as a student activist in 1988, 30-something years ago. All right? And when Asiwaju did it, we said, okay, he has done it. Since it has been done, the only thing we can do is to advise him how to cushion the effect and immediately do things that will make sense. Even under Abacha, as terrible as we said Abacha was, the differential in the removal was put in PTF. And the funds were used on road infrastructure. We could see those infrastructure. We could see them funding hospital. We could see them funding rehabilitation, of universities. They had their mandates. So that money did not go to the federal government. The PTF was created to manage it. Now, many arguments, whatever you take must go to the consolidated revenue, and this is a democracy. And then what did they do with it? What are they doing with the money in the various states? So the ABC is a club of looters. That's what it has become. Right. They took money from poor people, share it among themselves. So how can they win any election that is free and fair?
Okay, let's talk about those monies that have been shared across the states, or across the 3 tiers of government. We've seen record numbers for the states, some of them as high as 150, if not 200% increase in their federal allocation. We've seen the same thing with local governments also.
So have you seen anything on the ground in those states?
Where is the criticism for the governors, who are also on the platform of the PDP? Where's the criticism for the third tier of government that we know, for the most part, has been emasculated by the state governors, who still control their resources directly or indirectly?
Those who are doing some things in their state, they don't need to be afraid to jump into APC. Let their records speak for them.
You think defections are a sign of underperformance?
Yes, they are. They are. People who don't want to be accountable. People who are scared that they need the federal mind to win election. They are the ones who defect easily. So, and that brings us to electoral reform. Okay? When Abacha died, I was one of the gentlemen that submitted memo to the military high command, led by General Bambeyi at that time, which they now took among themselves as soldiers. The night Abacha died, they were moving tanks on what should be the future of the transition program. And one of the things we recommended was independent National Electoral Commission. It was then called National Electoral Commission, NECON. Yeah. We proposed financial independence. But we also said the composition of the INEC should be done independent of the executive. That in fact they should advertise it, and an independent body should shortlist the successful candidate. The president should have nothing to do with the appointment of the commissioner and chairman of INEC, the federal commissioner and chairman. Okay, they accepted every other thing we recommended, including release of political detainees, lifting ban on political associations so that we can have new registration of new parties and all this. The only thing that they did not accept was making the selection of chairman of INEC and the Federal Commissioner to be independent of them. And that is the major problem of Nigerian democracy today.
And now we have a new sheriff in town. What are your 2 cents about Professor Joash Amopitan, the man heading INEC right now? Quite reputable, an academic genius by the look of his track record. Does that in any way give you a sense of hope that he could be a game changer come 2027?
Well, let's see. I congratulate him. The nation expects a lot from him. So let's see how he lives to that expectation. You have some off-season elections coming. There are issues of political party registration. Let's see how he handles that.
What do you think about Anambra? Was it a fairly good electoral process?
Well, I am yet to see the report and to review it. But I think largely we can see that the governor that won is popular.
I'm sure you're keeping tabs with developments in the National Assembly, where the conversation about an amendment to the Electoral Act of 2022 is still underway. They've had to give it another look, and we understand that that is going to be the key issue going into 2027. How confident are you? And if you have any concern, what concerns do you have about what we may or may not see in the amendments regarding the process itself and the recognition of what needs to be there to ensure credibility, integrity, and transparency of our electoral process?
You know, the INEC chairman has been appointed already. I would have wanted the recruitment process to be independent of the president. That's one thing I would like to see in the Electoral Act. Okay, and I would like also to see that the electronic processes are codified into law. They're not left to the whims and caprices, you know, of the INEC Management Commission. All right, like saying, oh, we can use IREB, we can use this, or we may not. You know, that should not be may not. You know, in these things, and then, you know, the major problem of the last election was not at the polling unit, but at the collation center in Abuja. So we must have some legislation that, you know, gives some kind of serious legality to the result that emanate from the polling unit. You can't have, I can't score 10 in this polling unit, 10 in the next polling unit. Then I have, in 5 polling units, I have 50. Then you come to the collation center, then you say that what I have is 20. Then you say, oh, you cannot announce the results that you got in the collation, in the polling units. In the United States, nobody waits for one INEC to announce results. In fact, people start calling the result as they are collating it. They know the final tally.
Projections, right?
Yeah, but right now, I think our electoral system makes that illegal.
I mean, you think some of the advancements that we've made with IREF, for instance, the portal that allows you to see in real time some of these uploads and allows people to pretty much do the maths themselves. Do you think we're headed in the right direction? And again, do you think Professor Joash Amopitan is the man for the job?
So those processes that you have described as the signposts to the right direction, they should now not be debarred legally by saying that the results of such efforts, you know, are not valid. That is only what happened at Abuja Collation Center that is legitimate. That's where we are. If you send your reporters around as trust newspaper, you are able to collate the results of an election and determine the winner. CNN makes its call of the winner of the US presidential election. Fox News makes their call, and nobody says it's illegal. In Nigeria, they say it is illegal. It's only one professor or somebody that can announce and determine who is the who is the winner of the election. I think there's something wrong about that. There's something wrong about that.
Right. Okay. But in talking about, what's been happening with our elections, we saw a number, and it reminded us of something that has become a part of our electoral process: vote buying. We saw a lot of inducements. On one hand, there's a conversation about regulations and who the players are. We've seen EFCC deployed to the field, but there's only so much that they can do at any given point in time. There's also the deployment of police officers. INEC is at every polling unit conducting the elections, but we know their job is to organize and conduct the elections and not necessarily go about apprehending people who are vote buying. What about people in your category, the politicians, the ones who benefit by inducing people to get the votes? The spotlight has always been on the electoral umpire, but for the most part, a lot of people feel, politicians are the ones in power. They're the ones who are making the laws. They're the ones with the right incentive to nudge a particular law or provision to favor them when it comes to election. Because to be honest, for the most part, politicians only care about winning elections. What are people in your category doing to make matters better? Because
I think that despite all the challenges of our electoral system, I want to urge those who really desire a new Nigeria to keep faith with the electoral process. Register massively at every opportunity. Now, there is a limit to which you can buy votes when there is massive turnout. And if you are paying people 5,000 or 10,000, if you buy just 100 votes, you are talking about almost half $1 million to $1 million naira. It's not so cheap.
But it's actually, it's actually cheaper now. We've seen Maltina and Gala, we've seen 500.
But when you have 1,000 people, 500 people turning out in a polling unit, is not practicable.
But it doesn't stop politicians, right?
Yeah, it's not practicable to. What I'm saying is, when you have low voter turnouts, those vote buying on the day of election become significant. But when you have massive voters turnout, vote buying is not something that is very effective. Secondly, what I will bother about is not even the vote buying that occurs on election day, as much as institutional purchase of voters, like what is happening, getting chief executives to give them amnesty, approve ecological fund, approve this for them. The votes are being purchased in advance. I understand that there are agencies now that are collating names per polling unit, 500 polling units and all that. And some of these things they call social intervention fund. These potential people that they expect to vote for them are the beneficiary. So you have institutionalized vote buying with federal government money going on. Because the money for some of the so-called social intervention funds only end up with potential supporter of the ruling. And they are using the money from the Federation account that belongs to all of us to do that. I think you should be more concerned about that one.
And some would say
the 2000 and the gala that happened on it, that's not very effective.
Some would say we've seen PDP deploy that also when he was in charge of running the country. But as a final thought on what's happening with the PDP, you've talked about how the governors are being bought. We've seen the Nigerian Senate or the National Assembly. Basically, it's about to look like green, white, and red, the colors of the APC, right? And we've also seen people who have been staunch PDP supporters, PDP loyalists, members from the start, join the APC. What are the chances that Dr. Hashim could end up in the camp of the APC? Are you available?
Well, I left the APC for PDP. Right. So, if I wanted the largest in the APC, I wouldn't have left.
Right. So you're not for sale?
I can't be. I've never been. So, I mean, we're talking about our country that will put our life on the line to fight to save. And so if we wanted money, we would not have taken those risks those days.
You say the PDP is not a lost cause right now. You believe we could see a turnaround?
No, we'll follow it through.
Right, okay. The November 15, 16 convention, only God knows what's going to happen. Whether, I mean, the PDP is doubling down saying, listen, we're going to go ahead with our planning. We all know that.
Well, I don't think I will advise anyone to violate the law. In as much
so you think they shouldn't go ahead with the convention?
They should not.
Right.
They shouldn't.
Why?
Because I don't see how practically an expert emotion can override a substantive judgment of court, or even a ruling of court that listens to both parties. It's common sense. So I think that what we need is to bring both parties together, to reconcile them, and let's have a convention that is not going to lead to factionalization of the party. One convention. Yeah.
If you have to speak to the camera, to the people, the factions responsible, because we've seen the factionalization of the National Working Committee. In the interest of the PDP, what should they do?
They need to come together, call a NEC meeting, resolve their differences, and have a convention that will not be a factional one. That's my advice.